But hello to you from the sports desk. Let's quickly catch you up. South Africa is set to face Israel in the Davis Cup playoffs. National captain Christo van Rensburg won the Australian Open doubles in 1985, and he trained with former Israeli star Amos Mansdorf. Now with his squad to face a team that could be led by Mansdorf, currently the director of the Israel Tennis Association, van Rensburg will have to deal with an old friend becoming a new foe. For more on this, we are joined by the national team captain himself, all the way from Austin, Texas. Christo, good evening to you. Thank you so much for making the time. I want to get straight into it. How are the preparations going ahead of the playoffs?
Well, listen, so far it's good. Most of these guys are now a little bit in off-season, and then they will start up in January, and some like Lloyd and Raven and them will move to Australia. And some of the other guys are playing wherever they can get in. I know I see Sultan and Beckley and the guys always there in Egypt and Tunisia playing, and the college guys. So we will, we chat about the tie and we'll keep following them like in January and see how they're doing.
You mentioned Lloyd. He's had an exceptional year. I'm sure his addition will serve the team well.
Yeah, listen, it's always good to have a guy like Lloyd on the team. He just brings some, different level of play. And like I said before, what really benefits our team is the other members who are trying to make it on the tour, get to practice with him that week and get to hang out. And I think that's what really helped us that week in New York in September.
So I've read that some of the players are at universities in the United States and you are going to have to negotiate for them to be released. I'm quite interested to know if these negotiations have started, and is there perhaps any indication that you might not have some of the players available to you?
Yes, some of the players kind of have an idea when it is. I'm reaching out to the coaches right after the holidays now, and that obviously would be a challenge. That depends on the relationships we can have with the players and the coaches that we already have. But in the future, this is obviously something that South Africa will look at. Who are the coaches in America that will help our players, during their tough season in March, where we can grab them for a week. I still feel most of the college coaches feel confident about it, because representing your country is always a big deal for anyone.
No, most definitely. I quickly want to touch on some of the travel restrictions that have been imposed on not only South Africa but other African countries as well by the likes of the United Kingdom and the United States. March 2022 is around the corner, but it is far enough for us to see another variant, for us to possibly have a fifth wave as well. Anything can happen in between now and March 2022. So what happens come March and there are travel restrictions? How would that affect your plans then? How would that affect your team, Christo?
I think when it gets to that situation, then we will most likely get support from the ITF. If there's travel restrictions, maybe where we could ask to move the date, maybe. And also, if it gets restricted like last year, they moved most of all these Davis Cup ties. They either moved them later in the year. So I think this is probably going to be a month by month. Obviously, it will hurt any team if some of their players can't go, but the other team's players can. And this is just a tough time for all sports players. And we're going to have to cope and find a way which players are in which countries and then allowed to do it and work around that if it comes down to that.
So talk to us a bit about the Israeli team. You and Mansdorf are quite close. Should the Israeli team be led by your good friend? So should the team be led by your good friend, what are some of the key points your team should take into account when playing the Israeli side? Because, I mean, you're quite familiar with Mansdorf.
Well, I'm sure we will have to use a few joker cards because we were coached by the same player. Our coach was from New York, and he coached us for 5 years together on the tour. And as you know, Mansdorf was a top 20 player in the world, and he's a dear friend of mine. So when we chat, it's always good to hear what he's doing. I'm sure we will have to, like you say, think outside the box. but he definitely has good players on his team. You know, he has about 5 players ranked between 300 and 750. So their depth is quite good. He has an experienced player in his doubles combination, just like I have Raven Klaasen. So it would be a battle. And I've played in Israel before. The crowd will definitely support their team very loudly, like I've known for playing there over the years and also playing against Amos there. But it'll be fun. And, you know, I'm taking my coach as the assistant coach that I did before. So the 3 of us will actually reunite. And I'm looking forward to that very much.
Christo, when I asked you about the release of players, you spoke to building good relations with the coaches in the United States. There's a colleague of mine who had an interview with the manager of Rock Nation. And as you know, Rock Nation has signed a few South African players as well. And one of the things that he was saying is that South Africa has to build on their sporting footprint. And with you mentioning building also good relations with coaches in the United States, just in a broader sense, how important is it for us as South Africa to go ahead and build these good relations with other countries as well?
I think it's very important for us with the countries and also with the coaches because of, I would look at it as the rand value being quite low compared to Europe and the American dollar. For our players to go outside of South Africa and have to compete, there need to be some kind of relationships with other people. So when they get to those countries or they get to college, we know that those people will support us, whether it's just looking after these kids. And then again, is it easy to talk to these people who run the federations in these countries? Like most of these federations are guys that I run it who played with me during my time. So relationships, I think, in any kind of sport, in any business, is very important because there are going to come some times where you need a favor, you need to help them. And this is something that we've been working behind the scenes. How are we going to help our players to get to the colleges where we have better relationships? And where are we can we find places in Europe, if they stuck for a week, that they at least have a place to go?
Christo, thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there for now. That was national captain Christo van Rensburg talking to us ahead of the Davis Cup playoffs, which take place in March 2022.